Hello to everyone, and thank you for having me here. I'm sorry my Spanish isn't a little bit better. Please forgive me. Today I want to talk about something that we see at Forrester that is a very important trend, that organizations that are having difficulties with scaling their operations, we're seeing a lot of early success with the use of platform teams. So what is really holding back infrastructure and operations? Traditionally, we don't really do and deliver services well. And there are a lot of things that contribute to us not being as successful as we could be. One is our organizational design. We are living in organizational structures that were formed when we had factories, and we're running IT like a factory. There's very much a command and control organizational structure. Internal IT operations is often run as a cost center. So there's always this pressure, this increasing pressure to save money for the organization. Another really difficult part is that for probably the first couple decades, we needed professionalism in IT. So we very strongly adopted process-oriented frameworks, things like ITIL. But the problem with a process-oriented framework is that it's very difficult to coordinate the work of the organization in a way that is supportive of an adaptive, agile organization. We have a lot of stuff in tickets and in queues, and it isn't necessarily at the velocity that our customers need. Another thing is we have a very singular view of teams, and it's very much driven by that org structure. I have a manager, I report to that manager, but there's a lot of other very fluid communication that happens within an organization that isn't indicative of that org chart. The other thing is that IT has traditionally been very artifact-driven, right? We don't do it unless it's in the ticket in our IT service management system. And we're driven by what gets into the ticket. That's how we coordinate the work across our organization, and it's the way we make sure that we're completing the work that we have. So modernization comes in a lot of different flavors, right? We have Agile, we have DevOps, most recently the project to product. But how do we know how to move our organization forward? Which one of these iconic change initiatives is the most important? Which one should we do first? I think it's important to understand that future fit organizations are really, they're agile, they're able to reconfigure and move in order to support the organization as it's changing. There are customer needs, but there are also very important employee needs, right? If we are going to deliver services effectively, our people need to be happy. How many of you feel a little overwhelmed in your jobs from time to time, right? It's a very, very difficult career, especially if you've been in it a long time. There's a lot of pressure. So we have to be adaptive, which means that reconfiguring to match what the business needs. Creativity. When was the last time you looked at your environment and said that it was really driving creativity in your environment? And we also have to be resilient, right? Having and delivering the right vision for the organization, no matter what crisis we might engage in. Now, there are three important core drivers of that future fit organization: our platforms, our practices, and our partners. And today I want to talk to you specifically about those platforms. You are here at the ManageEngine conference, right? You guys are using a platform to help drive your business. How you manage that platform is extremely important. So future fit organizations, our data shows that those organizations that are really future fit are reorganizing with product team structures. Now, there are a lot of different drivers for the success of a product team, right? We have faster time to market. We have greater alignment to the customer needs. We call that customer centricity. Responsiveness to change. So as the changing dynamics in the market are occurring, we have to adapt and change along with them. Early intervention on risks. Continuity of knowledge. Knowledge is a very important part of innovation. We really have to look at what knowledge we have, how we're sharing it across the organization. Ownership and quality, outcome focused, right? Not just measuring operational performance, but how are we delivering on expectations that are driving business outcomes? It's very important also for us to focus on that employee experience. Many IT workers have too much cognitive load. They're doing too many things. We're kind of the jack of all trades. We have a lot of different roles that we fill within an organization. So we are master of everything and good at really none of them, right? Because we don't have enough time to really develop our capabilities. We also see entrepreneurship and decentralization as being very important to the future fit organization. Now, if we view this kind of as a journey, right? We had the traditional operating model that was really waterfall oriented. Then as we began to move into more of the modern organizations, we adapted. We developed things like Agile and DevOps, and that move from project-oriented to product-oriented. And then as we're moving towards future fit, there are new ways that we're embracing, new ways in which we're thinking of how to operate. And one of the most important things is that the entire organization is very customer-centric. Now, this is a very interesting diagram, and I put it up here just as a visual. But when an agile team wants to begin moving towards product centricity, they're basically expanding into capabilities that the organization already has. We may start with a team that does the build and the test, and then we say, look, we want them to own more. We're going to add release to the team. Then we may end up adding some of the design capabilities and then the operations part of it. So when we create a feature team that's product-oriented, we're essentially bringing people with the appropriate skills together to have that product focus. But this is the important thing that I'm here to talk to you about today, which is that we see that the future fit organizations are really also applying product thinking to internal IT organizations. So when we think about a platform is defined as the creation and use of offerings and components, right, in its totality as a system. Not just thinking about, I work in networking and I'm thinking about the network only. Right? Or I am a database administrator and I'm thinking about the database only. We need to think about that as a complete system, not only in the way that we operate it, but also in that focus of delivering outcomes to the business. So it provides that underlying infrastructure that makes the business run. So what is a platform team? A platform team is a group of individuals who are focused on running that platform like a product. And with that comes some very important capabilities. They want to have the ability to manage that towards the outcomes of the business, to scale effectively, to innovate the product, to share knowledge across the organization. And some of the platforms that we are using today are so incredibly important to the operation of our business that if they go down, we have a significant impact to the business. So running those products or those platforms as a product is a very important shift that we see in the industry, that organizations that are really being able to scale things like DevOps and Agile are doing so with product mentality and both in the business, product, and IT as platform. So transforming your infrastructure teams to platforms is not that easy to do. We have seen a couple clients that basically take an existing team and just rebrand it. Now you're a platform team. And that kind of misses some really important parts of that transition, which is that customer focus, right? Being omni-focused on the fact that this platform is delivering these business capabilities that are lending itself to these customer outcomes. Remember earlier I talked about how IT operations has been almost always run as a cost center. And that's a really big problem when we talk about value delivery. We need persistent funding. Funding that enables these core platforms because the business depends upon them. We need a strong focus on automation. Stop doing repetitive tasks with people. It's expensive. Look where you can apply automation. And so when you have a platform team come together with that core objective of looking at what can we automate in the environment, how can we make this easier for us to get these objectives and outcomes for the business. Another very important part of the platform team is the fact that they're focused on continuous improvement. Not just today, but thinking about that future fit organization and making sure that that platform is ready to make the transformations that are being required by the business. And sometimes when we own a platform and we recognize that that platform is either obsolete or it's not delivering the capabilities that we need it to do, we have to own that and say, you know what, this is a great opportunity for us to actually outsource this and we could get better outcomes. So this is what remember the earlier diagram where I showed you how as you form a team, they're basically taking on responsibilities that already exist in the organization. When you're transforming your platform team, they're often doing things that don't exist in IT, right? So if we start off, we're doing basic provisioning and engineering support. But now we want to add in ticketing, and we want to add in that automation. We want to add in advanced automation. We also need to market. It's important that the business understands this platform and how to use it effectively. How many of you have actually gone to your business and say, we have this fantastic platform that could actually help automate and make business operations work more effectively? I've heard a lot of clients where they come to us and they aren't even aware that the IT organization has a platform that they could be using to make business operations more effectively. So it's very important that we have marketing involved in this and relationship management. So these aren't necessarily core capabilities that we have in a DBA, right? Somebody who's managing the applications. So when we bring that platform team together, one of the core capabilities that are important to their success is that product mentality. So we call this the EPOC model. Don't worry about the abbreviation. We want teams that are empathetic, they're customer obsessed. That's not just we're looking at the customer, we're obsessed with delivering outcomes to our customers. They're persistent. They have the funding they need as long as they're creating the value for the organization. They don't have to fight for money every year going through the budget cycle. This is a core part of business operations. It needs the funding. They're outcome-oriented, very committed to creating those outcomes, and heterogeneous. They have a lot of different skill sets all in one team that can provide that focus of delivering that platform to meet business objectives. I think this is actually a very interesting, it's another part of our research, which were the organizations that were moving towards product teams. Where were they really focused in delivering value? And it was creating team members that are 100% focused on the goals of that platform team. When we use important resources, 2% of their time is over here, 10% of their time is over here, right? They don't necessarily have the time to really focus on delivering that platform in a meaningful way for the business. So the thing that our clients are really looking to do are to dedicate those people to ensuring the success of that platform. So I see the sign for 10 minutes. We'll kind of go through some of the key success factors if you're considering moving towards platform teams. First of all, very different operating parameters, right? If you talk to somebody in DevOps or somebody in Agile, the language that they use is very different than IT operations, which might be very focused on ITIL and process orientation. So you have to understand that as you make that transformation. You're not going to have people that are speaking the same language. So you need to bring them together, help them understand each other in order to form a platform team. You want to experiment with this. This is not a best practice that we've got years and years and years of research to support. The organizations that are being successful with platform teams are still early on in this process, and they're doing a lot of experimentation. And over time, we hope to continue to look at what achieves success and continue to bring that information to the market. It's still very new. Another important thing, and I cannot underestimate this or underemphasize this enough, skill sets are incredibly important. How many of you have product management skills? Product management, not project management. Dos, maybe 10, right? So how do you expect IT people to manage a platform like a product if they don't have product training? You want integrated OKRs. We have a lot of things that we are measuring across operations that tell us about availability over here and how successful the support desk is over here. We need integrated OKRs that give us that view of how well we're achieving those outcomes. And then again, that focus on outcomes and customer centricity. Now, this is another data set that we have from a research project where we were looking at what makes infrastructure and operations so successful, and 97% of the high-performing organizations had embraced a culture of fast failure and experimentation. I do want to exercise a little caution here. We have to be aware of this swinging pendulum. Sometimes when we go after something, that's doing well in the market, we go all in. And we swing to one side of the extreme, and then when it doesn't work, we're left to wonder why. This is why experimentation is so incredibly important. You want to move in the right direction, but don't necessarily have a really long transformation project, 2 years, 3 years, where your goal is to swing all the way over here. So just be careful, experiment. Every platform team success story has one thing in common: distinct product management capability. When you design a platform team, 3 things to think about. Size. You can call it a 2-pizza team, right? A small amount of people, generally around 8 to 10. Any more than that, and you're taking on too much. That team cannot focus on those outcomes if they have too much work to do and variety of work to do. They need to have autonomy to make decisions to drive that platform's success. And the third thing is that persistence. That team stays as long as needed. I'm still going to have my manager, right? I'm still going to have the person that I report to who understands the work that I do, but this is a matrix team that goes across the organization that comes together, that has all the right skill sets to manage that platform as a product. One of the things to be cognizant of is this overwhelming burden that we have, right? I have to manage our people, I have to manage engineering, I'm in charge of service design and delivery. That's too much for one individual to manage and do effectively. So focus on removing the barriers, those things like the different perspectives between teams. Move from your command and control type of culture in the organization and move more towards product management. And then your funding models have to be more persistent. Final thought. The number one priority should be to get product training. We are seeing organizations that are sending their entire IT organization to 3 days of product training. Much like we did, people took ITIL training, right? Because they wanted to understand the ITIL methodologies and the processes that are important to running IT. Organizations that are future fit, moving towards product orientation and platform teams, this is their number one success factor. Get people trained on how to manage their platforms as a product. So that's all I have for you today. Adios.